Hello everyone. Welcome to the lecture series on computer organization and architecture. In this lecture series, we are discussing the concept of pipeline. In the first lecture, we have already discussed the concept of what pipeline, and we have explained this concept using real life scenario where we have used the scenario of a factory lineup where we are studying the sequential and the parallel execution of assembly lineup for developing the toy car as a finished product. And we have already discussed how sequential execution takes more time compared to parallel execution, where the overlapping of the steps will help to reduce the execution time per step. Now, in this lecture, we are going to discuss the concept of pipeline with the objective of understanding the concept in terms of computer organization and architecture scenario, where we are having a single CPU, a processing unit, and we have multiple instructions in the program. Now, how this practical scenario will be implemented in the computer system scenario where parallel processing can be done when we are executing one program, this will be studied in this lecture. So again, in this lecture, we are going to understand the different concepts of constructing instruction pipeline. We are going to discuss how an instruction can be divided into smaller tasks or subtasks and steps, and how each step can be overlapped to construct one pipeline or do parallel operation. Next, we are going to explain the different stages of the instruction pipeline. That means if we are having a 5-stage instruction pipeline, then what are the stages what are the stage of this instruction pipeline, how each stage is different from the other, what are the hardware that is used for each stage, we are going to understand here. We are going to analyze the pipeline execution for each instruction stage and how each stage can be overlapped with respect to the clock signal or in time. So in CPU, very important signal that we are going to use is the clock signal for synchronization of different execution in the CPU. So here we are going to study specifically the timing diagrams to understand how each step can be performed with respect to time or with respect to clock cycle. Now, this is the example that we have studied in our previous lecture, and we have understood how in this assembly lineup in the factory setup, where we are doing the production of toy cars, how each step is overlapped for doing parallel execution. That means from painting to adding wheels to applying stickers, how each step is subdivided unique steps, and they are not overlap, and they are not the unique steps are for each unique task are for each steps, and how they are not overlapping with each other. Each step then can be overlapped in terms of time. So as soon as we finish the first step or first car 1, then we can move on to the next car 2, and we can move on to next car 3. So how this entire process of generating the toy cars and the production lineup, how each step can be performed in parallel execution, we have already discussed this in the previous lecture, and how this parallel processing is improving the execution time. That means it is reducing the execution time, how this reduction in execution time is achieved using parallel processing, and how this reduction in execution time is affecting the system throughput. That means the system throughput is increasing with reduction in execution time, and as the throughput increases, the system performance also increases. We have discussed all this in the previous lecture. So now let us just relate our understanding that we had of this practical example with the concept or the scenario of an actual computer system, and how this computer system will be doing parallel processing, And what is the basic difference between parallel processing and sequential processing in computer systems, and the concept of pipelining, how it is evolving. We will just simply compare one step at a time with this example that we have just now discussed. So let us assume that for a single computer system or single CPU, that means I have only one processor. Inside this processor, I will be having one control unit. I'll be having one ALU, that means arithmetic and logic unit, and I'll be having one memory unit inside this. That means I'll be having one RAM where I will be storing the data in memory as well as the instructions in memory. So there would be one common memory for the data as well as for the instructions, one control unit, one ALU for doing the execution. So one CPU is having one unit each. So in my previous example, we had person number 1, person number 2, person number 3. Here we are having first person as control unit, second person as ALU, and the third person here is the memory. So you can actually correlate with that example. So those people there in the assembly line are nothing but the hardware resources of the processors in your actual computer system. So let us assume that this computer system is going to execute this program. So in this program, how many instructions are there? We have instruction 1 to instruction number 4. So total number of instructions is 4. So when we are doing this 4 instruction execution, you see here each instruction is doing some arithmetic operation, add, subtract, multiplication, or it is simply doing some load and store operations using move, or we can use load commands also. So we are doing this operation on the source and data that is stored in some register values in memory, and from this data we will be taking the input, doing the arithmetic operation, and then finally we will be storing it in the destination registers, which is also part of your memory. So majorly the data path or the sequence of execution is going to flow between the control unit, the ALU, and the memory, which is part of your CPU. Clear? So in this execution of the program, the data or the instruction is flowing through control unit, ALU, and memory. This sequence of flow from each of this unique hardware is called the data path during the program execution. Okay. So now how this instructions in this program from 1 to 4 will be executed. So number of instruction is 4. So remember this instruction count is 4 here. So we will be studying about how much time it will take to do sequential execution. Now sequential execution means it will complete instruction 1 fully. Then only it can start executing instruction 2. Once instruction 2 is completely done, then we can do instruction 3. Once instruction 3 is completely done, we can start with instruction 4. So this lineup of execution is the sequential or serial execution. So this is called sequential or serial execution that we have just now studied with the help of that factory example where we are doing assembly of the toy car. So person number 1, person number 2, person number 3 are actually my hardware resources or data path components. That means the control unit, the ALU, and the memory are those persons who are going to do this operation of execution of 4 instructions. So in this case, instead of toy cars, I am having instructions here from 1 to 4. In sequential execution, we will finish first instruction, then we will start with the second, then we will start with the third, and then we will start with the fourth instruction. After the end of the fourth instruction, the program execution is actually completed. Okay. So this is sequential. Now how then parallel execution is done? We will study that, but before that we have to understand to do parallel execution we have to divide each instruction into some subtasks or subcategories. So what are those subtasks and categories? So those subtasks and categories are nothing but, let me just clear this screen here. So they are nothing but the steps which are used for executing each instruction. So when we are having a single processor, we are limited with the processors here. So when we are having a single processor, how we are going to increase the performance of the system? That means if I have to complete 4 instructions, how can I do it in less amount of time? How can I reduce the execution time? That is my objective. So for doing this, for enabling this parallel execution, what we are going to do is, we are going to divide each instruction into multiple stages or multiple steps. So what are these multiple stages here? The first stage of every instruction is called instruction fetch or IF. The next step is called instruction decode, or simply reading the instruction and understanding what is the operation to be done and what is my source data, where I can get my source data, and where will I store the final output. So this is nothing but decoding the instruction which is present. So if I say instruction 1, so fetching instruction 1 means reading this instruction 1 from memory. Every instruction and data is actually stored in memory. So we will be reading this instruction 1 from memory. Yeah. So once the instruction 1 has been read from memory in first step, which is your IF step or instruction fetch, then the next step in the execution is decoding, which is understanding what is written inside this instruction 1. What is written inside this means what kind of operation I have to do. What is my source data? Where I will store my destination, that means what is the final location where I will store the final output. Okay, so all these things which are there is actually done during the instruction decode phase. Third step in this lineup is called execute stage. Execute stage is nothing but doing the arithmetic operation or the final step of execution. Now decoding is majorly done by your control unit here. So reading, we are doing it from memory. That means fetch cycle, we are doing it from memory. Decoding, we are doing it from the control unit, and the execution we are doing by the help of ALU. Okay. So in this step, what we are doing here, we are actually doing, we are dividing the main task into subtasks, each instruction into subtasks. Then we have the memory access. Now memory access means the output of the execution will be temporarily stored in some memory space. Okay, so that time this step is called the memory access phase. So the output, or during the execution, the output that is being generated during this execute stage, that will be stored in memory. So that is done in memory access phase. Finally, we have the final stage which is called WB or write back. Write back means storing this output in the final register or destination register. That is called the write back stage. So what are we doing? Every instruction, that means one full instruction, will be divided into, so instruction 1 is divided into 5 steps here. Similarly, instruction 2 will be divided in 5 steps. 3 will be divided in 5 steps. So each instruction is having 5 steps here. Okay. So how this division of steps is going to help in parallel execution, that is what we are going to study here. So the objective of dividing this in smaller steps is nothing but to do the operation independently by overlapping. So if I want to do parallel processing, I have to divide each instruction into smaller steps so that I can utilize my hardware. Hardware is control unit, ALU, and your memory and your registers actually. So all these are your hardware component, which is part of your data path actually. Okay, so these will be used for doing parallel operation. So how are we going to do parallel operation here? So when we are dividing every instruction into how many stages here, we are dividing this into 5 stages. Every stage is doing a unique operation or unique task. What is the unique task in first step or first stage? We are doing instruction fetch. Instruction fetch means I am going to read the instruction from memory. So my operation is reading of instruction. What is my hardware resource? That is memory. Okay. In the second step or second stage, I am going to do decoding of instruction. So decoding of instruction means I'm going to understand what is written in this instruction. So I'm going to read the operation. I'm going to read the source, that means my source data, and I'm going to understand where I will store my final result. So this is actually done by your control unit of your CPU. Third step is the execute stage. Now in this execute stage, we are going to understand the performance is majorly the arithmetic operation or logical operations, which is being done by your ALU. Okay. Fourth stage is your memory read cycle or write cycle. That means in this step, when we are doing the execution here, ALU is going to do some arithmetic operation. The output of this arithmetic operation needs to be stored in some memory location, which is done in this step. The final one is your write back stage, where the data that is being generated is stored in your final destination. That means the final location. It's just some register locations. So if I say that in this instruction number 1, what is my final destination? My final destination is R1. What is my source here? Both R1 and R2 is acting as the source. Final destination is your R1 here. That means first execution is nothing but R1 is R1 plus R2. This is my first operation. So I'm going to read the input data from R1 and R2, and my destination is actually storing this data output, doing this arithmetic operation of addition and storing this output in my destination register R1. Okay. So now how am I going to do this operation with this 5 stage of pipeline here? So I have divided successfully each instruction into 5 independent steps. Each of the steps are actually performed by separate hardware. That is the first and the important point while doing pipelining or parallel processing. So fetch cycle or the first cycle is being done in instruction cache using program counter, and we are actually reading it from the memory. Second cycle is being done by control unit, where we are going to decode this instruction, understand what is the operation, what is the source data, where we will store the final output, all those informations. Third step is being done by ALU. Fourth step is where we are storing the data in temporarily in data cache, and the final step is write back stage, where we are going to store the final output in the final destination, that is your registers here. Okay, so this is your this is the major operation here, and what we are doing here is, if you divide this each step, so first instruction we are doing nothing but calculating this. So if I want to write this in notation form, we are doing this in the first instruction. In the second instruction, we are doing R3 plus R4. In the third instruction, we are doing R5 into R6, and in fourth instruction, we are simply moving the data value from R8 to R7. Okay. Now, how we can do this parallel execution, or how we can implement this pipelining? So for implementing this pipelining, I am using here as a reference signal which is called clock signal. Every CPU will have one clock or clock signal. So in this case, we are having one CPU. One CPU will have only one clock cycle. So one clock signal. So every CPU is having one important signal which is called clock. This signal is majorly used for synchronization operation. Synchronization means for synchronizing each step of execution inside your CPU. Now, how this operation or how this clock cycle is used for synchronization means, for every clock cycle, that means suppose the clock cycle means the clock time period. Suppose the clock time period is for, say, suppose example, it is 1 second. So clock cycle 1 is of duration 1 second. Clock cycle 2 is again of duration 1 second. 3 is of again 1 second. 4 is again of 1 second. 5 is again of 1 second. So each of these cycles of clock are equal time period, and each of the steps of execution are done in equal steps with the clock signal. Clear? Now, for instruction number 1, for every instruction we have divided this in 5 steps. In our previous slides we have discussed that the 5 steps are fetch, decode, execute, memory and write back. So instruction 1 will have this cycle starting. So in clock cycle 1, first step, we are going to do fetch. That means we are going to read this instruction 1. In 2, we are going to decode the instruction 1. Why decoding? Because reading is completed. So once reading is completed, we will do decoding. Once decoding is completed, we will do execution. Once execution is completed, we will do memory access. And so once we do memory access, and then once memory access is completed, we will do write back. So this is how the stages are being done in parallel processing. So as of now, this is not parallel. This is for single instruction. We are divided into multiple stages, and how each stage is flowing with one clock cycle. This is what is shown here. Now, how the next instruction will be placed and how we are going to do this in sequential form as well as parallel form, we are going to study here. So, one instruction is actually divided into 5 steps. So, one instruction is divided into 5 steps. Each step is taking 1 clock cycle. So, total time for executing one instruction is 5 clock cycles. This is very plain and simple, very basic explanation of this. So, now for second instruction, how we are going to do parallel processing. So, just like we had studied about the assembly line, how toy car finished product was being generated. So, when your first person was doing painting, the second person was waiting. So in this case, first person means first instruction is being executed in the fetch cycle. That means I am reading instruction number 1 in clock cycle number 1. So when I am reading this step, the next instruction has to wait. So we are doing nothing here. So we are doing nothing means we are actually waiting. So instruction 2 is not being executed in first clock cycle, it is waiting here. So once this first instruction fetch is completed and it is moving on to the decode phase, what will happen to the instruction 2? In instruction 2, we will start with the fetch cycle here in clock cycle number 2. So in clock cycle 2, once this instruction fetch has already completed for first instruction, the decode stage will start, And as the decode stage of instruction 1 has already started, then your memory read cycle, that means I can now start with reading the second instruction in the lineup. Okay, so I will start with instruction fetch in this second clock cycle as soon as my first instruction fetch is completed. So when I'm doing the decoding stage of instruction 1, I am parallelly doing instruction fetch of instruction number 2. Okay, why I'm able to do fetch and decode both these two steps in one clock cycle and how I'm able to do this? Why? Because in second clock cycle, the decoding is being done by control unit, which is one hardware or one component of your data path execution. And your fetch is being done in using program counter and instruction cache that are nothing but part of your memory. Okay. So first step is being done by a hardware, which is your memory. Second step is being done by the control unit. Clear? So in fetch and decode, because they are being done by two separate hardware, they can be simultaneously executed parallelly in the same clock cycle. So in clock cycle number 2, we can do both fetch and decode for each independent instruction. That means I can do instruction decode for instruction number 1 and instruction fetch for instruction number 2. In my third clock cycle, when I'm doing execute, that means the decode is completed and it is moving to execute stage, then we are going to do decoding. So when decode of first instruction is completed, it is moving on to execute in clock cycle number 3. We are starting with the instruction decoding of your second instruction during that same phase. Now, why we are able to do this two steps in the same clock cycle? Because execute is being done by ALU. So execute is done by ALU, whereas your decoding is done by control unit. So here we are using a separate hardware and here we are doing a separate hardware. So when the hardware resources are separate, we can overlap the two steps in the same clock cycle to do parallel processing for a single processor, so that we can actually reduce the execution time here. Clear? Okay. So in the next clock cycle, when execute is completed for instruction 1, it is moving to the memory stage of instruction 1. And the second step here, as soon as it is completing decode, it is going to the execute stage. Now this is related to data cache and this is related to ALU. Again, separate hardware. So there is no overlap between the hardware. So the task can be overlapped in this clock cycle. Then finally, in clock cycle number 5, when we are doing write back, that means final data storage after memory access is completed. In this step, we are doing memory access for second instruction. So this is data cache and this is registers. So both are separate, or we can say this is separate locations in memory. So registers are part of internal memory and data cache is again part of your main memory. Now here, once this write back is completed, instruction number 1 execution is completed. So when instruction 1 is completed, how many clock cycles are needed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for completing instruction number 1, we require 5 clock cycles here. Okay. So as soon as write back is completed, instruction 1 is completed. So in clock cycle 6, instruction 1 is doing nothing. That means it is waiting. And instruction 2 is starting with the write back stage. So as soon as write back stage is completed, instruction 2 will also finish. So for completing next instruction, here we are using how many clock cycles? So we are starting from clock cycle number 2. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So each instruction in your parallel processing or pipelining is using same clock cycle, same number of time.